want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Hey, I am Jason B. Kendrick.
Man, I can't do it backwards. I can't do it backwards, man. The only way I know how to do it is to say I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am still Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Trigger alert.
Trigger alert. Big trigger alert.
Trigger alert.
Warning.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
What's the space show? The warning something.
Oh,
his name something.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, this is a trigger. This is a trigger. Don't say we didn't warn you. We don't want no attitude. We don't want no all that kind of stuff. Don't say we didn't warn you. This one is real. It's about to go down.
That's right.
That's why we're both wearing black.
I didn't even
We're
know,
the Men in Black.
See, we're so in sync. We're so buddies like that.
We're the Men in Black, except that actor. I'm not down with him.
Not anymore.
Yeah, you can.
But I still make this look good.
Yeah, you did. Oh man, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about men and divorce.
It is.
And we're going to have to get into it because there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of opinionated drivel out there about men and divorce and all these different things. And then there's a lot of things being put out in the media that I think is just financially driven. It's not even reality driven.
No doubt. So, hey, if you go to our Mad Men, if you're watching us live, because, we produce these throughout the week and then we broadcast them over the air. KLDC 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City, Saturday 8 a.m., Wednesday 6 p.m. And when we actually record these live, we stream them on social media. So if you're watching us right now on, let's say, Facebook, for example, if you go to the Mad Men of Masculinity page on Facebook, if you comment, we'll see your comments, and JBK will make you famous.
I will make you famous. I'll put you on there. We'll make you part of the show.
We'll make you part of the show. Join us. Be part of the show. Yeah. Remember the old days when you had to call in? It's like, call line number one. Caller number one. What are you saying? Yeah, we don't have to do that no more. All you got to do is just type in a comment, and then we can see your comment. We'll put it right up on the screen with your name, and we'll let everybody know. And you can put in your input.
And speaking of, if you want to catch up on past episodes, or you want to go and catch all of this episode, go to YouTube. Mad Men of Masculinity on YouTube is our channel, and you can watch all of our episodes. Like and subscribe, and if you subscribe and help us get to 1,000 people, 1,000 subscribers, then we will get to be more full-time on the radio. And guess what? You might actually be able to get to the point where we'll be live, and you can call in, and we'll make it famous twice.
It costs you absolutely nothing to hit the subscribe button. I mean, it doesn't. And if you really want to be an extra special student, you can hit the bell and all that kind of stuff. And then whenever we go live, it'll let you know all that kind of good stuff. But
and if you're in your car, wait till you get home.
Don't do that while you're driving.
We
don't
have
text and drive
on their phones while they're driving.
You'll probably end up getting divorced if you do that.
Speaking of divorce,
there's a dude in my neighborhood I mean, it's, in the suburbs, it's a decent kind of neighborhood, but it ain't a neighborhood where a guy should be driving a light blue Ferrari. And
in your neighborhood?
In a townhouse, yeah. And so whenever I see this dude driving this light blue Ferrari through my neighborhood, first thing that goes to my mind is she got the house.
Compensation.
He wasn't giving up the car. He said, I'll keep the car, you take the house. And now he's living in a townhouse with a light blue Ferrari.
No, he probably gave up the house. Now he's got a townhome, and now he's using that light blue Ferrari to get his sugar babies and his young ladies for his emotional stability.
Yeah.
Do they call them animals?
I don't know.
Emotional stability pets.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's his trophy. His trophy was his life, and now his life is his trophy. And that's the light blue Ferrari that he drives through. So we're talking about divorce today. And full disclosure, one of us has not luckily been through divorce, thankfully. Look at the smile on his face. Look at him. He looks so peaceful and content. He don't even know. He's so ignorant. He's just happy. He's just so. It's called ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, right there. That's prime example of why ignorance is bliss. Me, big dummy. On the other hand,
dummy.
You big dummy, like Fred G. Sanford. I'd be Lamont if I was on the Sanford and Son. You big dummy. I've been divorced multiple times, twice, as a matter of fact. I'm just gonna be real with it. I got nothing to hide. I mean, it just is what it is. So that's our perspective today. And we're talking about this from those perspectives. A guy who, is in the manosphere, that would be JBK, who has not been married and or divorced, and then Guy, from manosphere space, who has been through it a couple times, once very ugly, once not so ugly in terms of what that proceeding is like. And I'm not proud of it, by the way. I mean, that's, I'm proud that I survived. But at the same time, I got a whole lot of lessons and a whole lot of wisdom from it. But that's our perspective today. So you don't necessarily have to agree. Obviously, we have two different perspectives based on our experience. So, we're all free to have our own perspective.
Yeah, I mean, coming from my perspective, one of the reasons I am at my age and never been married and never been divorced is because of what I saw.
Dummies like this.
I do have friends. I do have eyeballs and ears. And one reason we wanted to do this episode is because I think there's so much focus on, single moms and what the court system does towards fathers nowadays. What we don't talk about is the stages that men go through after a divorce, or what actually happens to men through the divorce. Because we were talking about before we even got on air, it's a death. You go through the stages of grief and all the stages, the 7 stages of grief as you go through as a man going through divorce. And I've seen enough of my friends go through those things that I, granted, became a little gun shy and was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make sure I'm 100% sure, which of course probably is never going to happen. So I'm lowering that bar down to maybe 90% sure. Maybe as I get older, it might go down to 80 or 70% sure. But those are the reasons that I was like, I want to make sure I'm ready. I find the right person, and we have all of these things that we're working on, our traumas, we're working on our past, and we're doing personal development together and have the skills to communicate effectively within our relationship, which haven't found yet.
Yeah. And, my perspective is, I'm pretty open. I can be, I think, somewhat objective from both a lot of different angles or perspectives. I mean, I can see the ins and the outs. I see how I did things, the wrong ways in terms of not only just the divorce proceedings and processes, but then also just relationship, just how I got into dysfunctional relationships. I mean, and it's one of those things that, we keep finding the same person or having the same things over and over again because we don't change, going into it. It's like a common factor in all those things. And, after my most recent one, I had to realize, okay, what's the common factor in both of my divorces and every bad relationship I've ever had?
What's the common denominator?
That would be this big dummy. So I had to get my poop in the group, you know what I'm saying? And so anyhow, from a divorce perspective, and didn't you have some statistics or something like that? You got some numbers?
There's tons of statistics about it. Nowadays, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And then when you get into second and third marriages, those numbers jump exponentially. So you go from 50 to 52% first-time marriages, 70 to 75% second-time marriages, and then when you get to third marriages, it goes up over 80%. End in divorce.
Yeah, so, and a lot of those numbers, you go to different sources, you find that either way, I think the common narrative is that, first time marriages, there is a chance. Second time marriages, there's less of a chance. Third time marriage, and so on and so forth. The more consecutive marriages you've had, the less of a chance statistically it is. And again, even if you say 75% of however many end in divorce, well, there's still 25 that do. And in my opinion, that 25 figured out what was the problem, what was the reason why they were in the first and second or however many rounds. So it's not necessarily doom and gloom, but the fact is, if you don't recognize some stuff and go real into it, then you're probably going to end up with some bad results.
Yeah, and one really interesting statistic has been coming out lately, and this kind of goes towards the kind of new feminist movement, and a lot of ladies going, I want to be alpha boss babe and have all the accoutrement of what they believe men have, and they go out and they're more promiscuous and they have more partners, and their body count goes up and up and up. Well, there's a 80% chance of virgins or people with like less than 2 partners lasting in their marriage. And then once you get over 5 partners, it drops to about 30%. And then if you go up above that, it's down to into the teens and lower. So there is some truth to the fact that when men are wondering, looking for maybe not a virgin, but someone who does not have a high body count, there are statistics that show why. And granted, because we're getting really into a lot of reasons why men are hesitant nowadays because of everything that we're on the hook for and all the responsibilities we get. but without having any protection. We'll say protection on the back end when it comes to ending a marriage and divorce.
Right, and you know, how you go into the marriage, I think dictates a lot. Well, you know, one of the reasons, at least one of my personal motivations for the 7 Secrets of Modern Dating, the he said, she said guide to getting from single to spouse.
Number one in 7 categories.
7 categories on Amazon, which we, you know, both had a part in. You know, one of the passions or motivations that I had was, you know, with those kind of numbers, maybe culturally, we're just not doing things the right way when we go from single, when we go from, you know, from the couch to the spouse kind of thing. Like, why are we doing these things? Why are we, you know, why do we seek our spouse while we're upping our body count, for example? All these kind of things. And so how we're doing even the dating process, I think has a lot to do with the divorce thing. And so, you know, all of these things go into it in terms of how we end up here. And of course, all of this is just set up. And as we kind of
set you up,
we completely set you up. And then we'll get into some of the ins and outs of this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's a topic that needs to be discussed, I think. And I think there are many different aspects of it, quite honestly. Even in an hour, you know, with a few breaks, there's not enough time to really dig into really any of the deep avenues or deep channels associated with this topic.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll go ahead and put some pointers in as we get ready to take our first break. But when it comes to having successful relationships and having successful marriages and staying away from the high statistics of divorce nowadays, it starts with you and your own personal awareness. And one of the reasons we wrote that book, 7 Secrets of Modern Dating, is to talk about what we have learned the hard way, both of us, some of us a little more severely than others, about the mistakes we make getting into relationships. Because I think most of us were taught or either restricted from dating or restricted from having healthy dating or having healthy experiences towards dating to find out what we needed to find out before we actually got married. So a lot of times we weren't allowed to explore these things in a safe environment with healthy relationships with our parents. That said, oh, there's a good idea, there's a bad idea, here's what you learned, this and that. And then we get thrown out into the world and go, okay, go find a mate and get married. And we're like, even what? Huh? You didn't tell me none of this.
Yeah, I think Leslie wants to be famous.
Leslie
wants to be famous. Leslie wants to be famous and make her famous. So grateful that y'all. Thank you.
Hey.
So grateful for y'all. So grateful. Thank y'all. And by the way,
she's grateful.
I met Leslie over the weekend, man. She is so cool. She has a dynamic story, man. And but you know, she's a great woman and a good soul in general. So thank you for that, Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
And speaking of, let's take a break.
Should we?
I think we should take a break.
All right.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Men of Masculinity, 12:20 a.m. KLDC in the Mile High City and on the digital webs. Everywhere.
You know, should we tell them we can hear them or maybe they need to?
Who knows? I don't know. So for all y'all watching right now, and by the way, you know, these get edited on. This is all behind the scenes. None of this right now. These moments won't air over the radio. But in the next studio, we got folks, you know, talking through the wall.
The corner cafes over there being loud.
Man, you know, we got you got the loud neighbors, you know, the ghetto neighbors you got. Well, that happens in radio too. You got ghetto neighbors next door. Take good people to know good people, sir. I love you, young lady. Man, that picture, she's one of the first pictures I took at the boot camp, Gary Barnes, Breakthrough Business Mastery Boot Camp. I had the honor to MC. She was fantastic. One of the first pictures, and man, people were just like liking that picture and just commenting and all that kind of stuff. And she told her story, man. It was pretty dope. She didn't speak off at the end, and it was pretty cool, man. She
I'm gonna ask him, Leslie. You have to break down your story. Give me the cliff notes.
Leslie Arboleta. I got to introduce her at the thing. So
to give her the
I gave her the treatment.
The treatment
in a good way. The MC treatment, right? She got the
nice.
She got.
He's good. He's good at that. He's good at using his mouth that way.
No diggity.
You ready to come back? That's what she said.
All right,
and we're back. Men of Masculinity. KLDC, 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City. And guess what, folks?
Baba is the man on the radio again.
That's right.
The man on my radio.
But you stop turning on that channel.
Baba, it ain't gonna be talking again. It's the men that you always scream at to say they crazy.
We are crazy. We're crazy good.
We're mad. We're mad.
Hey,
in a good way.
Leslie. It takes good people to know good people, sir. That's right. I think she might be talking about you.
Sure. I'll
She
yeah, okay.
must be, 'cause I don't
I'll
know.
receive it. I'll receive it. You got to be able to receive love to give love.
That's right.
I'll be able to receive. We're talking about divorce today,
Yes, we
and we're
are.
talking about it from a male point of view, anecdotally and experientially from one of us, and factually, and all this other kind of stuff. And we're talking about this from a male perspective. One of the key things, and I think a good place to begin is in the beginning. That's why they call it the beginning.
Really?
How we go into relationships needs to change people culturally, socially. We need to stop looking at dating as a consumable activity, as recreation, as something to serve me. And I need to find somebody that meets all of my needs, checks my box, and me, serve me, love me, follow me, do this to me, date me. What if we look for somebody that we can serve? What if we looked to build a relationship with someone, not that met all the check boxes of the statistics and how tall they are and what their abs look like and their bank account, and some of those things are important for different reasons to a degree. But what if we made people less of a commodity and more of a human being, and we worked on ourselves first? That was the whole thing. The first secret in 7 Secrets is work on yourself. Get your own poop in a group.
You got to go inside before you go out, and that is what's making everybody so lonely and isolated, and also making it much harder for us to find compatible and capable, and I don't know where that word went. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
it's making it so much harder for us to find people that we can connect with and are compatible with later on, because we are treating each other like commodities. So number one, we're having a lot of fun in our 20s. Number two, we're also getting very traumatized because nobody is giving us any kind of time and attention, treating us like we're important people. And also, as we get older and we've all had our body counts, we've had all our fun, and now we're trying to settle down, people don't trust us, or we don't trust them because we haven't had good experiences of long-lasting, intimate relationships where we actually can work together, communicate together, and it's always been just hit it and quit it and move on. And now you go, well, okay. I mean, I remember having an experience with being that guy, being the player in my 20s, and then around 27, all of a sudden going, I think I should have a girlfriend. I don't know where that came from, but all of a sudden I'm like, all right, let me try to change my whole ways and go find me a girlfriend. And that failed miserably.
The solution to the dating problem is in the mirror. Or I'm sorry, the solution to the dating problem and the divorce problem is in the mirror. Quite honestly, it just is. And so from a guy perspective, us guys, man, we gotta work on ourselves to get ourselves to the point where we are bringing a wholeness to a relationship. We're bringing space. We're bringing safety. We're bringing security. We're bringing, we need to up our game, to a degree. And I don't mean game in a bad way. I'm just talking about metaphorically speaking. We need to up who we are and be the best versions of who we are, so that we can offer that to a relationship, not to a person, but to a relationship. I like to say there's two people, but then there's the relationship. It's the campfire analogy, metaphor. The campfire is there, and we both put logs on the campfire. And if there's a problem, the problem is the campfire. Are we both feeding the campfire? Are we providing oxygen and nourishment to it? And so that's what we serve. But us as guys, we got to get our stuff together individually. 6 out of 10 divorces involve somebody with a porn problem. I'm just going to put that out there. And then you factor in all of that, addictions and all those kinds of things. So you better make sure that whatever you're consuming, the other person is okay with you consuming it. I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna take judgment and all that kind of stuff out of it. Whatever you're consuming, if she ain't down with it in the beginning, if you can't be wide open with whatever that is and she's down with it, then don't even try to sneak it in. Like, don't try to think that once you get married, that's gonna go away. Those kind of things are things that I hear these stories over and over again from guys and from hurt women who are stuck in these marriages with guys that have these addictions and these habits that are detrimental to the marriage. And so from a guy perspective, we got to work on that.
Yeah. And to even dig in a little bit, why a lot of times men have porn addictions in marriages, where you're like, well, he's got a wife. He should have ready access. Why is this man going on online? Well, a lot of times it comes from lack of ability to express, lack of communication, a lot of judgment, a lot of fear around judgment, and there's no healthy access or healthy release of stress. So he comes home from work, he's stressed out, then he comes into his house, And now his wife is stressing him out, or she's already stressed. He doesn't know how to deal with this. And now he's got to go release that energy the only way he knows how. So he gets online. And then it turns into the spiraling problem of addiction because that dopamine hit. I mean, we all know about these phones and all the apps and things. They know how to get our dopamine hits. And it turns into this spiral of problem. And so there's a lot of times, and I don't need to like point the finger and go, oh, it goes both ways. Well, that man has a problem. But a lot of times he has that problem because he doesn't feel safe to express himself, and he doesn't have an avenue of either other man or therapy or personal development to go to work out his stress and his issues so that he can be more healthy and more focused on his relationship and his family when it comes to these addictions, these things. And also, to Kirk's point, we all have vices. We all have things. It's kind of my thing. Well, if your partner doesn't like your thing, that's not your partner. There's a lot of healthy relationships that outside people would think are weird, but it works for those people. It works for them because they both agree that these are their things, and whatever that vice is, they both agree that that's something they want to do together. So whatever it is, you can do it together. That's also something to grow that relationship with. It's something you do together.
And it's something you don't have to medicate. And that's a lot of it too. When when that stress hits and that cortisol hits, a lot of times, especially us as Americans, we look for ways to medicate stress. Oxytocin is one of the complete antidotes to cortisol, chemically speaking. So wherever we can find those things, and we find those things, the way to medicate in those consumables in life, whether it's alcohol. I mean, you can replace whatever the thing is you want that you escape to. If you have to escape to that, it becomes almost a mistress. It becomes a mistress, mister in a relationship. And absolutely, women have the same thing. There are a whole lot of women that escape to alcohol or food or whatever it is in the context of getting away from whatever problem that is in the relationship. So whatever your thing is, make sure the other person is okay with your thing. Don't go losing a whole lot of weight so you can go start dating. I mean, if that's how you are, somebody needs to love you exactly how you are to go that next step in the relationship. But it makes no sense to go lose a bunch of weight. I'm going to lose a bunch of weight, and then as soon as I find that person, I'm going to go hit the buffet and tack all that weight back on. It don't make no sense. And then it's like, wait a minute, when I met you was a size whatever, or whatever it is. And so, how we go into marriage has a whole lot to do with how we go out of marriage. And all marriages end. We acknowledge that when we say I do. For better or for worse, till death do us part. So every relationship ends, every marriage ends, but you want to end it in a certain way and not the other.
Well, and one thing really, when you talk about that and how marriages end, remember this too. And one of the reasons you need such good communication skills, you need to be able to work through problems, you need to be able to work together, because as human beings, we change. And that person you married is not the person you divorce. So gentlemen, that woman, that girl you married is not the woman you divorce. They go through their changes, we go through our changes. And if you're not communicating and working together through your changes, then that rift goes apart. You can either grow together or you can grow apart. There's really the only two choices you have. And if you're not communicating and going through therapy or going through personal development together or have some way of working on these things, and that's true. Like all these divorces, all these hurt, broken men that we talk to are like, I don't know what happened. She's just a different person. Obviously, he wasn't paying attention, or he wasn't on the playing field with her and playing that same game.
Dude, let me tell you something. Fellas, you have not met the woman that will go through a divorce on the other side of the table from you. Like, I'm telling you, all of the lovey-dovey, all of that good feelings, that good juju, the endorphins, the oxytocin, all that kind of stuff that happens in the love space, man, I'm telling you, it's a totally different person. I'm telling you, a scorned woman ain't nothing to be messed with, bro. I'm telling you, when that thing happens, man, you just best be ready. So you got to make sure that it's the right person up front. You got to be sure you're on the same page. And if that takes an extra however many years or whatever it is to make sure, then make sure, because I'm telling you, it's just not worth it on the back end.
Yeah, we were talking about this because of a mutual friend of ours, and we were like, well, he's grown, he can do what he wants, but the honeymoon phase chemically in your brain lasts 18 months. It's scientifically proven, it's been tested. So you need to be with somebody no less than 18 months. And I would say probably even longer than that, say 2 years before you pop the question and get married, because you got to get through the honeymoon phase. Now, granted, everybody's different. For some of us, it lasts longer or shorter, whatever. However, as a guideline, when you're getting into marriage or you're getting into relationships, 18 months to 2 years. And I would say 2 years or more, because you got that 6 months after the honeymoon phase ends that you can actually be real people together and actually work through issues together without all the starry-eyed, rose-colored glasses going, oh, they're perfect. No, they're a person, just like you.
When you're on the phone and you're doing that, you hang up. No, you hang up. Okay, you're okay. We're gonna hang up together. We're gonna hang up at the same time. Okay, ready? Ready? We're gonna hang up at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Did you hang up? You still there? I know you're still there. You still there? All that is chemical juju, and that's good. I mean, I think we're wired, we're made that way. I mean, to bring that first love bond together. In our culture, you got to make sure you're beyond that. You got to make sure you're out of the chemical phase, because when you're when you're seeing each other day in and day out, when you are on the other side of the bed, you smell that breath in the morning. When you walk into the bathroom after them, day after day, and you're like, what crawled up in you and died? I mean, when you got to live somebody like that, when you just see the amount of dishes they can leave around, when you smell them shoes and them socks, and I'm telling you, when you smell them before they put on cologne and perfume, and when you see her without the makeup, man, when you see her before she go in and get the Botox, I mean, when you all of that, you got to have time for all that to go away. So
speaking of all that, let's take a break before we get cut off the air.
We want to get in trouble. We're talking about smells and everything else. Man. We're talking about.
All right, that's it, kids. We're gonna take.
Hey, but then when we get back, I want to talk about legally going into a marriage.
Yes, we're gonna do that. So we're taking a break. Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Maha City. We'll be right back. We were pretty good. We didn't use any bad words.
I don't think there'll be a fine. I don't think there'll actually be an FCC fine.
I didn't use any bad words.
I think, yeah.
There was no profanity.
There was
just
any
actual examples.
Profanity. So if you're watching us behind the scenes here, true producer Nikki Nicole just popped in at the very end of that and asked if she's gonna have to edit some of that out.
She wants to know if we're gonna get in trouble.
I don't know. What do y'all think? Is that gonna have to be edited, or will there be a fine?
We didn't use any bad words.
Thanks, y'all. I don't know.
Colorful.
We kind of cray sometimes, but it was pretty colorful. What? It was colorful. Put it that way. Colorful is a good word. Colorful is a good word. I don't know. Y'all think we're gonna get fined on that one? Hopefully not.
But if we do, make sure you like and share.
We're gonna need to take up an offering. We're gonna need to take up a collection. We're gonna need to GoFundMe, because we broke. We can't afford no fine. We can't afford to pay attention. I mean, man, that'd be in trouble, man. Ooh wee. I wonder how they do that. I wonder if they send like a FedEx letter saying, "Hey, we're gonna have to."
I think they send you a cease and desist letter, and then they don't show up until you don't cease or desist.
We'll see what happens.
Well, we're gonna be right back.
Mad Men of Masculinity, we're back.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We back, and we was tripping on the break here. We was tripping.
Yeah, producer was worried about our.
She's worried we're gonna get fined. I don't know.
We're
gonna need a GoFundMe. A GoFundMe for the Mad Men of Masculinity radio fine.
Speaking of GoFundMe, we do have advertising and sponsorship opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because we do cover the whole of the Denver metro area, from Longmont to Castle Rock and the foothills to Strasburg.
Oh yeah, all over the place. We talking about divorce. Some of y'all broke because you went through divorce, so some of y'all need some advice. Some of y'all need some help. Now, one of the this is from my experience. One of the stigmas from the guy's perspective in terms of why they don't want to get married is because they automatically assume that if there's a divorce, they're going to get hosed. I'm going to use that word.
This is a good word.
Because the other word I was going to use would probably get us a fine and can't afford to pay attention. And so I think the stigma is that. Now, I believe, again, even though I'm a two-time offender, I believe in marriage. And I believe that one day I will be married to my last wife. I believe in that. I'm wired that way, and I just believe that. That being said, one thing I do know from a wisdom perspective is it is possible to what's the term? Mitigate any potential losses or whatever you want to call it legally going into a marriage. Commonly a prenuptial or premarital agreement. You each person has to have Each person has to have representation, a different attorney. You come together and you blah, blah, and you can agree on terms of this and that and make sure assets are protected. Because a lot of people, once you get into your 40s and 50s, well, I don't want somebody taking my house. I don't want somebody taking, I've been working this job, whatever. I don't, my stuff. Well, okay, that doesn't need to be a deterrent to getting married. You can do some things to like I said, ideally mitigate any of those losses. That doesn't mean you're setting yourself up for divorce. That just means, hey, you're acknowledging the reality and you putting some things down to, if nothing else, I think it helps you communicate up front, gets on the same page. And if that's something, if you can agree to all that beforehand, then I think it's actually part of you coming together.
Yeah, and it's not sexy. I mean, we all get the romance about marriage and everything, but you need to look at it because it is a business contractual agreement. And one of my favorite phrases is, when is the best time for marriage counseling? Before you get married. So thinking about it as a business, as a partnership, looking at the business side of it, looking at the financial side of it before you tie that knot, and going into counseling, going into having an arbitrator or a counselor talk to both of you and help you build communication skills, help you get on the same page. Because so many people get so caught up in the honeymoon phase and all the oxytocin and all the serotonin. They're just so lovey-dovey and so happy that they're not seeing clearly. And so you ignore all the red flags, you ignore all the things because they're just the most wonderful person in the world and they're pushing all your little lovely buttons. And then later on you go, who is this person I'm with? Because now that phase is over, the chemicals are gone, and now you're actually seeing who they really are, and you have no idea how to deal with them, how to talk with them, and you feel stuck because now you're in this marriage with this person that you don't even really know. You didn't put the time up front. And that's why we say in the book and online and right here, start with yourself. Go get therapy and counseling for your own traumas and your own past behavior. Find out what your good points and bad points are, and be able to express those things. Work through those things, heal as much of your trauma as you can. And then as you get into relationships, express that and go through those processes of having a counselor and a lawyer talk to you about it, and a priest, counselor, lawyer, priest. We're going to cover the whole gambit. Talk to all of them as a couple. And you want to have a successful marriage, treat it that way. I guarantee you'll be much more successful than 90% of the people out there today.
I just hit me that, pre-marriage, there's a whole set of chemicals that happens. Post-marriage, whole different set of chemicals that it's all chemical. But post-marriage, man, it's sympathetic nervous system. It's fight or flight at that point, literally. And so a lot of different chemicals kick in, and on either side of it, you can be irrational. On either side of it, two rational, grown people can be irrational, make irrational choices. And so one of the things you pointed out, and I don't think a lot of people who haven't been there don't realize, is that marriage is an entity. It's a legal agreement. It's a legal corporation, if you will. A divorce is a dissolution of marriage. And so going through the whole legal process is the legal dissolution of an entity, a government recognized and sanctioned entity, which some people have their opinions about or whatever. But and so it is a thing. So you will have to go through the process of, if this doesn't work, X, Y, and Z, on the back end of a bad or a failed marriage. And so to do it in the front end, I think it makes you have certain conversations, because you got to have financial conversations. You got to talk about money. You got to talk about house and stuff. You have to have these deep conversations that if you can't have before you get married, you probably shouldn't get married, because a lot of people, once you get married, all of a sudden you find out all this information about this person that I wish I would have known this going in, but all that stuff doesn't get talked about till after the fact. So if nothing else, it helps you have all of these conversations that are part of this legally binding thing, like a corporation. I mean, it's the bankruptcy of a corporation. It's how you tear that thing apart and dissolve it and all those kinds of things. And it's ugly, but to have those conversations up front, man, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, gentlemen and ladies, but gentlemen especially, you definitely want to have these conversations, because you don't want to go in like a lot of guys do, and they have this traditional mindset. Well, I'll go work and make money, and she'll handle the house and the books. Does she have a business degree? Can she add or subtract? Do you know how she spends her money, and do you know how she handles her money? Like, these are conversations you want to have before handing her your wallet and checkbook, because I've seen a lot of broken men going, well, I just thought she would take care of that. But he didn't do his due diligence to find out how she was with money, how she spent her money, how she handled her money. And then when she did the same thing with his money, he was very upset. But it's like, dude, did you not check underneath the wrapper and see that the label and see what she was doing with her stuff? Like, how are you going to go into this blind and then blame somebody else? Like, gentlemen, you got to be upfront and honest and look for all of those signs and all their characteristics, because you're going into a contractual agreement. This is a government sanctioned contractual agreement, and it is a business entity. That's why you get all these tax breaks. And I've seen so many guys, oh, well, I'll just get married and then I'll have all these tax breaks. There's a whole lot more in the deficit column that comes with those tax breaks when you end up getting divorced.
And there are tax implications for reasons. I mean, it's beneficial to the government to have both of your combined incomes. It's beneficial because quite often married people buy houses. There's a reason they give you there's a tax incentive for buying a house and having a mortgage, because that stimulates the economy and all these other kind of things. And so there's a reason why a lot of these things exist, and I'm going to say specifically legally. So you need to make sure, especially from a guy perspective, and oh, by the way, more and more women are making more money than men. So guess what, ladies? I mean, this is something that
Are we gonna talk about hypergamy?
Well, I mean, yeah.
He didn't want to go there, but I just pushed it on him. So, ladies, as you're making more money in the world, you still want to find a man you can cohabitate with and are compatible with, but be aware of your natural hypergamous nature of, I need a man who makes more than me. I need a man who's, a higher earner than me and all those things, because there is, for the highest earning women in the world, a lot of them are single. A lot of them have been divorced, and a lot of them are having a lot of trouble finding compatible men, because they do have that mindset of, well, he's got to make more than me. What's wrong with a guy who's a carpenter or mechanic who's making $80,000 to $100,000 a year just because you make more than him? That is that guy has job security, especially nowadays. I was having a conversation today with a painter who works 7 days a week because he can't find anybody to actually work the job anymore, because all the kids want to be YouTube stars and never actually do manual labor.
And to that point, I mean, ladies, if you're looking for the guy, I mean, what's the difference? There's not I'm going to answer the question. There's not a big difference, any difference at all, from a guy that makes $100,000 but is terrible with money versus a guy that makes $75,000, $70,000, but is good with money in terms of spending and managing and all those kinds of things. And so, does he need to make more money than you, or as much money? Or, I mean, if you have a combined household, however you do the bills or whatever, I mean, ideally, at least if nothing else, at least be compatible with, who's the spender and who's the saver, who's the manager versus who's the spender. But, does he have to, again, if you're successful in your business, and you're looking for a guy that's more financially successful in he's probably not looking for you, because he's probably not looking for a woman that's going to be as much boss babe as he is boss man in the house. He's probably looking for a woman that's more submissive, that's more cooperative. That's exactly what I was looking for. So you got to understand that that who you look for and who you think is the one you want may not be the one that you want.
Yeah, gentlemen, make sure you're paying attention, because there's a lot of ladies out there that have that business mindset, who are, they're boss babes, they're entrepreneurs, and they got that mindset. And whether or not you are ready to take your business and turn it into something bigger, I've seen a lot of guys just get caught up in this mindset of grow and big and grow, and make it bigger, because that's what the lady they got involved with, that's her mindset. And so just like your the things you are into, you want to make sure you have the same mindset when it comes to business and finance, things like that. Because if you're just happy being a contractor and you're making your money and you're doing your work, and then you get with a lady who has a much broader, like, expansive mindset as far as business, and she comes in and goes, oh, well, we can get more trucks and you can get more people, and before you know it, now you're not a contractor, now you're owning a contract company, now you're a CEO, and all you wanted to do was be a contractor and work with your hands. So make sure you're having those conversations as well, because and ladies, please, for the love of God, stop trying to improve every man you get a hold of, or date a guy you think is a fixer-upper. If you think he's a fixer-upper, leave the poor guy alone. He's probably happy being a fixer-upper or what you think is a fixer-upper.
Yeah, I mean, the person he's almost this and he was just this, and if he can just be this, then he'd be so perfect. He's almost blah, blah, and he's the man I've almost always wanted, and the man I almost thought I always needed. It sets the stage of you're already not enough. He's already not enough. And if Guy is coming into it wanting to be nice guy, wanting to be the pleaser, at some point she's going to lose respect, and at some point she's going to end the relationship way before you even realize it, bruh. And so the compatibility thing is huge, but compatibility, it can also be polarity in terms of what's the right person for you. Quite commonly, the right person for you is not the one that society would say should be the one.
Yeah, and ladies, we told you about this before. Don't change a man. If you accept him, he may change of his own accord, but this pressure and judgment is not going to change him. It's going to, make him dig in his heels. So acceptance first. Examples later. And we're going to take a break.
Let's take a break, man. Men of Masculinity, 12:20 a.m. on the Mile High City and on the digital webs. Everywhere.
Are you seriously having a party out there? We can hear y'all.
Dude, it just hit me. This is a 2-part show. Yep. Because we need to come back and talk about the grieving process afterwards, like the guy going through divorce and the guy that has been through divorce.
Yeah, we didn't even think about how much was the preamble to that.
All of this is just into going. I mean, this is definitely at least a part 2 of like, all right, guy that's in or going through or been through a divorce.
What were you gonna say, Nikki? Mm-hmm. 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 Well, we that's the thing too, because a lot of times you ladies are like, well, I just need help stepping out of it, but you don't want to help us step up into it. So well, that's a great mindset to have.
All right, we're gonna this is fourth segment.
We're just gonna throw right back into
no. We're going there. We're going there. But I mean, so this is fourth segment, right?
Yeah, it's fourth segment.
Oh yeah, this is definitely part 2.
If
you're watching us live, next week is gonna be the part 2 of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Because we didn't even get to what we wanted to talk about.
We didn't even get to the crux of the heart of the matter of it all. Oh man, super producer Nikki Nicole.
Well, she's coming in here because she opened her mouth, and we're not gonna let that go.
Nah, we ain't gonna let this. It's good stuff. It's definitely worth to be.
All right, so I'll bring us back in, and then we'll get little Miss Skittles on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And we're back. Men of Masculinity on KLDC.
We're back like mullets. Mullets coming back.
It's all business in the front, party in the back.
I know, but the hair's coming back.
Well, as long as they don't bring back bell bottoms, I'm.
What happened to afros?
I wear bell bottoms all the time, dude. Like,
well, speaking of you,
so there's you're the reason why we finished in the show like this right here. We're about to go there.
So for everybody listening on the radio that we love, and we are so happy you're here, we are going to be doing a part 2 to this episode because we didn't even get to what we wanted to get to because this is such a deep topic. And as we're digging into the topic, Miss Nikki Nicole chimed in. What did you say to us, Miss Nikki? What did you say?
So you guys talk a lot about how guys don't want like the boss babe and the masculine energy and whatnot. But we get stuck in that place because we have to be the masculine. We have to be the boss babe. We don't want to be that. But we can't let it down. We can't let it go until a guy can come in and be strong enough and be enough that we feel safe letting it go.
Oh, put it on somebody else's shoulders. Why don't you?
Do you want that? Do you want me? You want me? Okay.
I'll let you go.
The conditionality of the female experience is contrary to the reality of the male experience. What I hear from you is it's conditional. It's an if-then. It's like, I will, but I need you to help me, or I will when you will. So the male equivalent of that is, I'm a nice guy. I just want to be a people pleaser. And I want to not be that. I want to not be that, but I need you to help me not be that. Or Or let's just say, for example, women want love and men want respect, right? And so, so the parallel to that is woman saying, I will respect him when he's respectable, when he acts respectable. What if, what paradigm would it be for a man to say, I'll love her when she's lovable, but when she's not lovable, I'm not going to love her.
See, that's the thing, though. You're taking it from a standpoint of two people who are already in a relationship. Like, I'm coming from the standpoint of I'm literally out there dating, like actively multiple guys over and over again. So I'm trying to choose which one is the right partner. Now, in that case, and bear in mind, yes, it is the responsibility of the female. She has to be able to communicate, like, yeah, I realize I'm this, but this isn't what I want to be. But when you're finding your partner and finding that person that you want to have a relationship with, evaluating, are they strong enough to take me out of that, is kind of one of those factors that you have to look at.
A lot of us wish we weren't who we are.
Yeah.
If a guy's broke, he wishes he wasn't broke. So is it fair to go to a woman and say, I know I'm broke and I know I'm kind of living in my mom's basement. I really don't want to be like this. But if I get with you, then you can help me not be broke. You can help me be different. You can show me how to get a mansion. You can show me how to be rich and how to work hard and how to get a job. And I can actually be productive. And then this relationship will work out. But I'm still in my mom's basement. I don't want to be here. But if I just get with you, then I'm pretty sure it'll all work out.
It's kind of like the same thing of when you have your list of criteria, like I want my man to be this, that, and the other thing. And then basically going, well, if you were that, then I'll be this. But when you have those criteria and you find somebody that meets those criteria, you need to meet that criteria, whatever it is. And so that means you need to already be in your feminine and be accessible and likable and cooperative. Versus, well, that's true. Well, I'm in my alpha babe, boss babe stuff, and now you got to get me out of it. And we're like, no thanks.
See, now maybe my confusion is coming from the fact that maybe I see the definition of these things different than
Probably
you guys do.
Yeah, usually we have skewed definitions from the masculine and feminine.
Right.
Well, yeah, because like, okay, you guys say boss babe, and I definitely think I am a boss babe. Of course, I use babe because we're censored on the radio. But you know, I have to be that. Like, I am good at my job. I am on point with everything. Nobody ever waits 5 minutes for longer than a response from me. Like, I am the boss of my world. I am queen bee, and I am in control. But when I'm with a guy, I'm not that. Now, when I'm talking about my job, he hears that and he hears my passion for my work and how much I'm putting into it. But I don't know, does that come off as I'm being the boss babe? Or is it just I'm really good at my job and care about it? Like, I don't know how it comes off to men. I don't know how they perceive it.
Well, and that's where the conversation and the communication comes in, when you are like, okay, dating now, let's get to know each other. And you can talk about being a boss babe, and if he has an issue, you say, no, I mean, it's to know each other now. And so that's where the communication comes in. But what we see a lot of is a lot of conditionality. I'm this, and you need to be this before I'll even come out of that. So
help me get out of where I am, which again, I say, if he's in his mom's basement, is it your responsibility to get him out of his mom's basement?
Well, first of all, you just described half of the men I dated, seriously, because they're all coming at me with something.
Well, there may be
it's
common.
It's a common denominator.
I acknowledge my horrible taste in men. I am aware of this. I like the broken fixer-uppers.
Acceptance is the first step. Of all 12 steps, acceptance is the first step.
That's true. I trust God to keep me protected. He makes them all skip off very quickly.
Don't they all have the same name?
Yes, they're all skip.
Gotcha.
Well, and remember this: rejection is protection and redirection. So
that's true.
Take it as a compliment that you are being protected when they reject you, or you reject them, and then you get redirected.
That's true, and that's how I pray. I'm like, God, you've protected me so far. I'm putting it in your hands. Of course, this is how I end up with pink and purple hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the morning is because there's another skip that skipped off.
Skittles. We love Skittles.
All right, so we're going to kick you out now.
Okay.
Thank you for your input. We're going to try to close this up somehow.
I don't even know. I don't even know how we. That was fantastic.
That was
because that is so valid. Like that is so practical. That is so real.
We're talking about divorce and men, and you're bringing in the feminine perspective.
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys got to think. I don't think like other females out there. No. I'm out there saying like,
Most
okay, you guys are broken and we all need to work.
But I would challenge you though that you'd be surprised how many women think and experience the same exact way and the same exact things.
Oh,
I mean, hearing these things over and over again, I would almost say that if you took the whole population of single women, at least 51 out of 100 think that same.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would probably definitely agree with that.
And we'll remind you to go back and you edited the single mom episode, but you might want to watch it because there's a whole nother category of struggle and complexity when it comes to dating in the world today.
That is true. Yeah. Sometimes I go back and listen.
No, sometimes I go back and listen.
We gotta bribe our own producer.
Yeah, no, we gotta. Please listen to our show. We just need one. We just need one. And man, I'm telling you, man, this is either way. This whole thing circles back to. I think we only made it to going into.
Yeah, we barely got into.
We barely got it even into the whole thing. So we definitely have to circle back on this one.
So next week we'll do part 2, the effects of divorce on men in marriage, or the effects of divorce to men.
Sure,
something like. Well, I'll figure it out.
Y'all know what I mean.
You know what I'm talking about.
But this is all viable stuff. And again, so many of us are impacted, whether we have been divorced, whether our parents have been divorced, whether we have a close friend or relative who's going through divorce or been through divorce,
and have friends going through divorce, or just seeing people get divorced. I mean, you see the ripple effect it has.
Absolutely. I spent the weekend at a conference with a good buddy who is a family law attorney in California and an advocate. Even spoke about that, just speaking about good men, and then like I said, we didn't even get to any of that kind of stuff. Another great friend who's a family law attorney here in Colorado, who actually contributed to 7 Secrets of Modern Dating. Great friend of mine, love her to death. And, she has so many stories and so many experiences and all these kinds of things.
And if you think this is a great topic and you want us, we can actually probably reach out to those folks and bring them on the show. And if you have questions, if you're going through it, or if you have family going through it, we want to be as supportive and helpful as we can be. So let us know how this hits you. And if you want us to go deeper, we can bring some of those experts on. Because, we have our own experiences, but I don't think we'd be considered nationally or experts. But we'd be experts.
I consider myself an expert.
Well, you're an experiential.
I'm an experiential expert. I'm like the astronaut that's been to space, not the one that's been in the Capcom. Not Houston. I'm the one in the capsule on the top of the rocket.
Yeah, no, I've watched all the videos, read all the books, but in preparation, because I was like, I saw what happened with my folks. I ain't gonna do that.
And I mean, not only did I grow up in a broken home, but like I said, been through it twice. First one was horrible. I mean, toxic, and the kids suffered. The kids always suffer worse. They always suffer the most from all of it. I think the main ones that lose are the kids. Really, the only ones that win in a divorce, if you call it a win, are the attorneys who get paid. But either way, that first one, second one was we didn't even have attorneys. We just did it ourselves. And
he's learning. He knows he can learn.
And she had been through it too, and so she wasn't interested in all that. And so from both of those perspectives, just having that experience is huge. But there's so many lessons to be learned. There's so many things to be gleaned from it all. That man, it's such a deep topic. The whole thing.
And I think this is one of those things to ask yourself too, especially because for guys, how the court system and legal system is kind of just stacked against you when it comes to divorce. And no matter how healthy the relationship is, or even how you're trying to end it more, healthily, a lot of times because it's a financial institution, the lawyers are there to make money. The ladies, I've had friends I've talked to who have been through divorce and had the attorneys, because this is their livelihood, say, hey, just tell the judge that he intimidated you or you were afraid. And then now that'll give more credence to your, you can get more money, you can get more custody or this or that. And so just remember that these are other people who don't necessarily have your best interests at heart coming into your life. So I sometimes ask friends, like, if you can do it, like, what's the difference of having a relationship in marriage versus out of marriage? Like, can you have the same relationship without the marriage certificate? And maybe you can have a better relationship because you're not in a contractual agreement. I mean, it's something, especially nowadays, something to look into, because a lot of the traditional values that held marriage together are falling to pieces. So maybe it's time to look at alternatives, or have your own marriage. Maybe if your girl wants to have her sweetheart marriage ceremony, maybe have one, but don't make it necessarily a legally binding marriage where you're even have to.
There's even still a whole lot of ins and outs there, because even that there, I mean, depending on where you live, you could have a common law marriage where you still have to go through basically a divorce proceeding, even if you're not married.
That's true, right? Because even if you live together like 6 months or something,
there are ins and outs depending on the state. And even in addition to that, if you're living together under one person's ownership, if it's one person's house and somebody moves in, you can't just kick that person out. They're a tenant. So there's so many legalities, even if you want to avoid the formal marriage thing, that, I mean, it really comes down to, you just really got to do that thing right, man.
That's why I think, nowadays living in a van down by the river sounds so much better.
I'm living in a van down by the river. Dude, I don't know. It's definitely, we got to hit this thing back up.
We're going to come back next week. And for those of you who love us and watch us on YouTube and Facebook, we will be back for the condensed version tomorrow. I don't know how we're going to condense this down, but we're going to give it a shot, and then we'll be back next week for the live on the air 1 hour segment, and hopefully we'll get to how divorce affects men.
Look up for your boys on social media, Facebook, YouTube, all the different grams and everything.
MadmenRadio.com.
MadmenRadio.com. Hit us up. Communicate with us. Let us know what you think. If we cray, if there's something we're missing. If you agree, if you disagree, if you want to partner with us, all that kind of good stuff.
If you've been divorced, if you're thinking about divorce, if you don't want to get divorced, talk to us and let us dig into that for you.
Holler at your boy.
Men of Masculinity.
Out.